My name is Ida. I'm an experience designer and media strategist. I work in real-world adventures, game design, and digital media. I have been creating transgressive adventures that put people in somewhat dangerous and uncomfortable positions. And I started to wonder what it was that I was doing right that led people to go past their boundaries and challenge themselves and become somebody different by the end of it. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. As you heard, my name is Ida. Last night I had the pleasure of being at the closing event for a wonderful experience organized by my friend Barbara here. And you can ask her more about the experiences she does afterwards, but I wanted to carry a message from that event over into today. This is going to be our mantra for the session. So, if you're here to save me, you're wasting your time. If you're here to liberate me, let's get free together. Ready? So I've been designing transgressive adventures. They're quite risky, either because they're just physically dangerous, because we ask people to do incredibly vulnerable things in close confines with strangers. The experiences that I make are risky. They involve physical danger, or we're asking people to do incredibly vulnerable things in intimate confines with strangers, or they're just straight up illegal because we're trespassing. And the experiences got wildly popular. People really wanted in. But what I was really hoping for was that folks would be making their own daring rituals of transgression and transformation. I wanted them to be inspired to do it for themselves. And so this sent me on a quest to distill the design components of transformative social experiences. I did background research in game design, the anthropology of ritual, and positive psychology. But it was a concept from sociologist Richard Sennett that really helped ground some of my thinking around this work. It's his theory that we are currently de-skilling ourselves in social cooperation. Through a century of diligent design work, industrial design, urban design, product design, we have essentially domesticated ourselves. Most of us spend almost all of our time in environments with a high degree of predictability, comfort, and security. So what have we lost in this process? What are we missing because of our own domestication? At the same time, we are in a moment in society when we look to design to produce magical results. We see design as a collection of skills that make beautiful objects and comfortable environments, but also that can solve problems of human emotion. And this is the kind of magic that a lot of us are looking for these days. So I saw in this confluence an opportunity. I went to the extremes when I did my research. I looked into sex parties, funerals, and guided wilderness trips as my case studies. I attended as many of these experiences as I could over the course of 4 months, and I interviewed the orchestrators and participants. If we assume that these experiences are designed, what can we learn from them? I could be accused of operating under the conceit that design is indeed magical. And I am casting the sex party purveyors, funeral directors, and wilderness guides as designers in the hopes of teaching design itself something new. In my limited time here, I want to touch on funerals for a moment. So what would be important in looking at funerals now? One funeral director I've been working with, Amy Cunningham, maintains that the American funeral industry has taken the risk out of funerals and thus unwittingly deprived us of something important in the bereavement process. I think this was evident in a New York Times article that came out about a month ago covering a funeral where hundreds of people came. It was an open casket funeral. And despite this nagging feeling that something was amiss and the insistence from many of the children that this was not grandma, the event proceeded as planned. And it was only when the funeral home called afterwards did they confirm that indeed they had the wrong body. Now, it's easy to laugh at this now, but you can imagine how upsetting it is to grieve for somebody close to you and then find out that, there was this mix-up. And the body swap is certainly reprehensible, but I think that there is something bigger worth paying attention here. Because if we cannot recognize our own loved ones in death, how are we supposed to mourn for them? And so, what are these avant-garde funeral directors encouraging families to do in order to change this culture? They are promoting physical contact with the body in terms of washing and dressing the body. They are promoting creative expression through activities like decorating the coffin together. They're bringing the body back into the home so that grieving can happen in a domestic context. And they're often eschewing any acts of spectacle and performance in favor of moments of collective introversion. They work closely with families to decide what part of these activities will work for them, if any. I have sorted these design choices and possibilities into a rubric that allows me to match those activities up with what happens at other risky experiences, like sex parties and wilderness trips, opening up entirely new possibilities for different kinds of experience design. And so what I discovered at the end of all this research is perhaps something that I knew all along. And that's that in order for an experience to be truly transformative, it has to have some element of risk. So if designers choose to go here, it is their job to facilitate people in approaching and reckoning with something that is legitimately risky to them, be that socially, emotionally, or physically risky. And by confronting that risk, rather than controlling it or stripping it out, our sense of ourselves, the world around us, and each other can change. And so why confront that risk? Why go through that change? I believe that this is how we can run counter to the de-skilling that a century of domesticating design has left us with. And we can rediscover our lost skills of social cooperation, confronting challenge, and embracing difference. So let's go do something risky, intimate, and generous together. Thank you.